Do you look like young Paresh Rawal?
You know, I look very much like young Paresh Rawal, but little different. So, for example, when we were 9 years old, एक हमारे इसमें होता है वो जनेऊ जो बोलते हैं, तो I was 9, I think he was 7 or 8. तब उनका किया था, मेरा 9 age, roughly the age of 9. तो we had both gone obviously bald for that. तो उनका फोटो और मेरा फोटो exact है. फिर I think as you grow older, there was one image of him on stage when he was roughly mid-20s or something like that. And मैंने actually Instagram पे डाला हुआ है. It looks, to me also, it looks like it's me at first glance. At my current age or maybe just a few years younger. And फिर I think just face-wise, I think there's just a little bit of like, my mother also is there. The shape of the face and all of that. But otherwise, आंखें लोग कहते हैं काफी similar है. तो हाँ यार, I've actually, growing up I got that a lot कि you look exactly like your dad. You look exactly like your dad. तो वो है और वो थोड़ा वो नटखटपन भी उनकी तरह ही है तो
yeah, बस height difference is there, right?
Height difference भी, he's actually quite tall.
Okay.
मतलब I am 6 feet because my mother is also pretty tall for an average Indian woman. पिताजी भी कुछ 5'10", 5'11" है.
मतलब similar सी है.
Similar ही है. हाँ, मेरे बड़े भाई जो है वो 6 फुट 4 इंच के हैं, तो उनके सामने तो सब मतलब.
अच्छा, तो मतलब जो नई हेरा फेरी आ रही है उसमें आपको कास्ट कर लिया जाए.
अरे काश, तो क्या मजा आया ना वैसा कुछ करने का, मतलब. बट यार बहुत मन है एक्चुअली स्क्रूबॉल कॉमेडी करने का. आई थिंक हम थोड़ा बहुत स्टेज पे किया है. यू डन इट फॉर अ फ्यू शॉर्ट फिल्म फॉर फ्रेंड्स. आपको कभी आपने एक्टिंग वर्कशॉप्स या किसी में यू आर ऑलवेज अटेम्प्टिंग दोज, यू नो, यू आर फाइंडिंग डिफरेंट गियर्स जिसे कहते हैं. आई तो रियली एंजॉय इट. और मैं तो मतलब उतावला हूँ कि कोई ऐसा कुछ करा है जो आउट एंड आउट स्क्रूबॉल कॉमेडी, स्लैपस्टिक कॉमेडी would be really.
आप लिखने की भी कोशिश करो ऐसी कुछ कॉमेडी?
यार वो फिलहाल तो जो मैंने कॉमेडीज लिखी हैं या जो भी मतलब जो भी थोड़ा भी कॉमेडिक होता है, आई फाइंड कि मैं जो भी लिखता हूँ उसमें देयर इज अ सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर इन इट. देयर इज अ सेंस ऑफ यू नो, भाई आपने तो देखा हुआ है सियाचिन जो नाटक लिखा है. इट्स अबाउट 3 soldiers who are on a glacier at 21,000 feet. But still there is that, and it's naturally seeped in. There's a sort of sense of humor.
Coping mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism for them, and I think that's just the way I also express myself. So humor sort of bleeds into everything. But I'm not really set out to write a screwball or a slapstick comedy. I've written a dramedy जो एक है जो तेरा है वो मेरा है करके picture. So उसमें जो type की comedy, that is a little bit what I'm used to writing, but screwball or slapstick is not something I've written before, and I think that's उसकी कलाकारी अलग होती है. तो to get there is something that is it also depends a lot on the collaborators that you have and the film, that the kind of film you want to make. But yeah, it would be a lot of fun, I'm sure. But as they say, you know, it's a very interesting thing. Comedy is very serious business.
Yeah, comedy and horror is very tough to write.
Yeah, see, boss, horror तो is one genre जो मेरे परे है फिलहाल. तो मतलब मैं, क्योंकि यार मैं actually out and out horror is not something that really interested me a lot. It was something like, I mean, मैं गिन चुन के मतलब अगर आप मुझे, if you list out a number of horror films, classic horror films, I've probably seen like 1 or 2 of them.
I find them really boring यार.
हाँ, तुमको भी मजा नहीं आता है क्या?
I'm like, अरे यार हम मालूम है अभी ये बाथरूम जा रही है, पीछे से वो दौड़ के जाएगा and she'll turn around.
And people say कि actually it's cinema at its purest because it's a visceral reaction that you sort of, you know, that is created within you because of what you're watching on screen, and I can't argue with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. But to me, rather than watching, and great films they might be, but rather than watching an Exorcist or an Omen, I've found myself always enjoying, say, even if you go a little bit into the space of a psychological thriller, like Shining or
Shutter Island,
yeah, or Rosemary's Baby. You know, Rosemary's Baby also, there is that sense of, there's a very clear sense of drama. You know, your character's journey, that your character's changing. There's a sense of, at the end, you are as good as ready to hold on to the devil's pawn.
So I've seen one of your interviews and where they were asking you to say some dialogues of your dad, but I'm not gonna ask
thank you.
I'm not
Thank
gonna
you
ask
very
you that.
much. I
mean,
appreciate that.
I want to know why I brought this up, because I want to know, like, बचपन से जब आप बड़े होते हो, when you go to school or even when you go to college or even anywhere, especially in India, once people get to know that, okay, he is Paresh Rawal's son or anyone's son, any great actor's son, they want you to replicate what they do, or there's certain kind of pressure that people feel. Was it the same thing with you?
Not so much, yaar. Not so much. I mean, I remember, and I tell this story very often. If you've seen an interview, you probably heard the story. बट पहली बार जब मैं स्टेज पे उतर रहा था प्रोफेशनल प्ले के लिए, बॉम्बे टॉकीज करके एक नाटक था, विक्रम कापड़िया जी ने लिखा हुआ, इट्स अ सीरीज ऑफ मोनोलॉग्स, और एंड इट वाज माय फर्स्ट शो दैट आई वाज गोइंग फॉर इन दिल्ली हैबिटेट सेंटर, एंड मतलब मुझे ऐसा जस्ट समथिंग स्ट्रक मी देन एज आई वाज गोइंग, बिफोर दैट तो आई डिडंट इवन थिंक अबाउट ऑल ऑफ दोस थिंग्स के, यू नो, हुज सन यू आर, हुज दैट, जस्ट मैं थिएटर के लिए निकल रहा था होटल से, और मुझे वो थॉट स्ट्राइक हुआ कि यार, you know, परेश रावल सन यू आर, लोगों का कुछ तो एक्सपेक्टेशन होगा या कुछ होगा, यार समथिंग कंपेल्ड मी टू कॉल माय फादर एंड आस्क हिम कि आपके नाटक की टिकट्स कितने में बिकती है, तो उन्होंने जो कॉस्ट बताया, इट वाज 3x द कॉस्ट ऑफ द टिकट दैट माय शो कॉस्ट. सो देन आई सेड कि ठीक है, सिंपल है बॉस, आपको अगर नहीं, आपको नहीं, 3 गुना कम नहीं है, आपको अगर परेश रावल को देखना है तो फिर आप परेश रावल का दाम भरिए और परेश रावल को देखिए, को मुझे देखना है तो प्लीज आइएगा, है ना. तो इट बिकेम अ वेरी सिंपल थिंग वेयर आई डिडंट रियली then give it any thought at that point. And also I think just realizing that, which is also a part of growing up, realizing that everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own sort of flight path जिसे कह सकते हैं, you know, your dip, these sort of peaks and troughs, ups and downs, and once you realize that, then you don't really worry about those things. And I've, to be very honest, I've never really worried about those things also, because I think that's my personality. Ever since I was a kid, I was always quite not obsessed necessarily, but quite occupied with my own things, whether it's cricket, whether it's football. I used to do, अभी मैं quizzes भी करता था स्कूल में, मैं theatre भी करता था स्कूल में, तो it was just this thing of you're doing your own thing and you have your own identity. And so when you're an 18-year-old and you're going to play football for one, you know, whether you're playing state level or city level or university or whatever, by that point you have realized that you have to fend for yourself, especially on the sports pitch. So there is none of that protection, none of those frills. So that has always been my personality. So it's not something that I found particularly स्ट्रेसफुल. और वो भी है कि यार उन्होंने तो इतना सब अचीव किया, मैं कहाँ अभी, मतलब, एंड इट्स ऑल्सो प्रिजम्पचुअस ना, अगर आपको लगता है कि जो आदमी ने कितना 350 या 400 पिक्चरें की है, उसके तुम लेवल पे आ सकते हो जस्ट बाय डूइंग मे बी अ हैंडफुल ऑफ प्लेज एंड लाइक 5-10 फिल्म्स और शोज, इट्स नॉट गोना हैपन.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's not gonna happen. So it's
doing 300-400 films, so like you're a world-class actor.
Yeah, so then when one gets to that level, hopefully, when one has done so many films, then you can think about chalo comparison. Now let's talk. But ये सब के बजाय भी मैं एक चीज बोलना चाहूँगा कि my father's dearest friend who actually passed away recently, Mr. Chandu Shah, who was a poet and a playwright in his, you know, in his own way, and he had written this play called खेलैया, जो उनका एक, मतलब, उनके यूथ में एक क्लासिक प्ले रहा है. तो उन्होंने मेरी पहली पिक्चर देख के बोला था कि यू इन योर फर्स्ट फिल्म वर्सेस योर फादर इन योर फर्स्ट फिल्म, यू वर बेटर. तो मैं वो पकड़ के चलता हूँ, उनको कभी कभी सुना देता हूँ.
My debut was better.
But that's all by the by, and it's all you know, it's all jokes. So it's also our medium is so subjective. You know, आप कभी फुटबॉल मैच देखते हो तो 22 प्लेयर में से या एटलीस्ट 20 आउटफील्ड प्लेयर में से देख के आपको समझ में आता है कि यार लियोनेल मेसी इज द बेस्ट वन ऑफ द लॉट, सिंपल, हैंड्स डाउन. You know objectively who is better. But if I ask you who your favorite actor is and you ask me who my favorite actor is, might prefer the work of my favorite actor more than yours, although in many ways your favorite actor might have excelled in roles that my favorite actor did not, and vice versa, because it's such a subjective medium.
Exactly.
You know, we watch the same play, we watch the same film, we're taking something else out of it, and when we're going home thinking, yaar, iske kaam mein to bahut maza aaya, and you're maybe thinking, yaar, uske kaam mein bada maza aaya.
Yeah, true.
So it's so subjective that one can afford to not bother about these things, you know, and that actually helps in, because it's such a competitive field also, कि आप तो मतलब अगर उसमें पड़ जाओ तो आप मर जाओगे.
Plus it is a collective you need a collective work.
It is a collaborative medium. So
true.
इतने लोगों का काम जुड़ जाता है इसमें. Even if you are, say, an actor on set, right, and you are putting in what you think is the most fabulous performance, your director also incidentally might think it's a fantastic performance. He doesn't take so many takes of you because he thinks you're doing fantastic. The other actor who he thinks might be struggling gets a lot more takes. On the edit table, he realizes that
better.
You know, and it's just that there are more options for him to play, for the editor to play with for the other actor, and maybe he finds, "Arey, ek moment reh gaya tumhare performance mein." Suppose.
Yeah.
At the end, the film, when it turns out, you might find that other actor's performance is more complete just because there was more ammunition for more ammunition for the editor to work with, not more focus on him. Okay. It's not necessarily about. It's not even about that. No, is what I'm trying to say. So many things are so incidental. Like I think, remember once that Marlon Brando had said, उनका वैसे भी वो performance celebrated था, but उन्होंने कहा नहीं यार, it's a shit performance. It was actually a great performance when I was doing it, but the editor ruined it. So I mean, you know, there's just many a slip between cup and lip जो कहते हैं.
Well, no one would say that editor made it a really good made me a really good actor.
I mean, but a lot of people know that. A lot of situations where
it's intrinsic, right? If I look at Brando talking about his acting, that how in the film my acting looks bad because of the editor,
because that shows the wrong takes.
Yeah, that is more for the audience, right? Audience is listening to him more than the people of the industry. People of the industry would know very well that editor needs to do the right work.
But that's the thing about all these thankless mediums. Now, whether you say screenwriters, editors especially.
Editors are like goalkeepers.
Editors, I was a goalkeeper and I completely agree. The only thing I would say is the pitfall of being a goalkeeper is that apart from the fact that, you know, you feel like you're underappreciated and you're actually sitting in your lonely space for a long time like an editor, the thing about a goalkeeper is that when you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, like a striker can miss 3 shots, 3 simple chances, he scores the 4th one, he's the hero. A goalkeeper does the opposite, makes 3 phenomenal saves and then makes 1 terrible mistake, he's the villain. Right?
True.
Jo, I feel like in the medium of film, that responsibility is mostly borne by the director. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So
I agree.
That sense of responsibility mein, there is a sort of mismatch. But I see your comparison. Makes sense.
Yeah. Again, I mean, especially the technical part. See, since I am also very much interested in making films, being into direction and editing all together.
यार तुम काफी अच्छा edit कर लेते हो.
Thank you. Guys, give me projects. I was watching Faraaz yesterday, and again, you have won Filmfare for your role, and congratulations for that again. And I was really trying to watch it just to understand what were those elements that made you win that Filmfare. And I was closely looking at your character, obviously, because I wanted to talk to you about it and everything. And when I look at it, when you watch a film on terror attack and when you look at a terrorist, the way they have been shown in the films that I have watched, it's just like this aggression, killing, बैठ जाओ, सब कुछ. But you are also very much, you know, kind-hearted at various moments. कि हाँ चलो अपने ही लोग हैं. I've not killed them because they are Muslims and everything. And you're like चलो आ जाओ. अच्छा बच्चों तुम जाओ उधर सीढ़ी के पास बैठ जाओ. अरे तुम्हारे बच्चे हैं जाओ. And play guitar or everything. So that side also shows that okay, these are young boys, and it was very important because like you have talked about, it was very important to show not just terror attack but the way they have been brainwashed. So आप उनके ही साथ हो, उन्हीं की भाषा बोल रहे हो, उन्हीं की तरह बात कर रहे हो, इंग्लिश भी है, हिंदी भी है, सब मिक्स है. But how you are brainwashed, it's not stereotypical character कि हाँ मूंछ होगी दाढ़ी होगी, they would have some certain kind
correct.
of so I think that played a really big role.
Yeah, for sure. I personally, it makes me actually a little bit uncomfortable to think about it in terms of आपको award मिला, किस लिए मिला, वो सब, I feel like that is a very happy, a very welcome byproduct, but it's a byproduct.
Were you expecting that?
मैं सोचता ही नहीं हूँ यार, क्योंकि वो जो चीजें हैं ना यार, वो आप सोचने लगते हो तो फिर one way or another it plays on you. कि अरे ये भाई अवार्ड के लिए क्या काम करना, मतलब वो क्या है क्या, it's so, again it's going back to that same thing that we were talking about, na? It's such a subjective thing,
yeah,
that it really doesn't if you should really, it's not worth paying any mind to. And boss, I'm saying, like, you know, things like Filmfare and all of those things, I mean, look, for a young actor, for any actor really, they're very welcome. But once you start going into, like, for example, you're talking about like even something as big or as sort of revered as the Academy Awards, you realize some of the processes that go into getting those awards or winning those awards, and you realize that it's all part of this machinery that, as an artist, when you're doing the work of the acting or the writing or the directing, you cannot afford to think about that, because फिर तुम बट रहे हो और बहुत गलत किस्म में तुम बट रहे हो.
Yeah, true.
है ना?
I agree.
तो वो सब तो सोचना ही नहीं है. As regards the point you're making about the point of view that we took, the intent that we had, वो हंसल सर के साथ पहली मीटिंग हुई तभी वो तय था कि हमको we are not looking at it as a stock terrorist, you know, we do want to present these people as lost boys, you know, in a way. So the moment you mentioned that moment, वो मुलाकात के बाद immediately वो switch flip हो गया, ठीक है? And then you sort of begin to understand, the moment you look at it as, okay, I'm not a terrorist, I am in, यार किसी के, you know, it's a very oft mentioned thing, अपने दिमाग में तो कोई विलन नहीं होता ना बॉस.
True.
And you might सबसे घिनौनी हरकत करने वाले लोग, उनके दिमाग में भी वो विलन नहीं है. You know, in some cases they might, most cases they are heroes in their own head, but in some cases they might see themselves as victims that are acting out. And that, I feel, that existed in these people, you know.
Yeah.
And you feel you're doing something righteous, you feel like this is a price that, it's not like you, तुम्हारी शायद बढ़ास निकल रही हो वो situation में, but you are always trying to justify it to yourself. You're always trying to sort of, you know, you're trying to sort of fulfill through your actions the image of yourself that you have in your own head.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, as people. So that is also part of the thing, na, where it's like, okay, I've, you know, laid waste to this restaurant that we've just entered and effectively, you know, shot up. And now you have these survivors. And now you are also in such a position of power where even handing out, like even being kind to somebody is just an extension of that power. You know, it's just, you're just exercising that power. Okay, right now I can be kind to you and later I will not. You know, you mentioned that one moment of the guitar. I don't think that's a moment of kindness. I think that's
more like enjoyment.
That is almost like, that is one of the moments of like almost like sadism. फिर वो बात अलग है कि वो बजाने लगता है, फिर कैरेक्टर उसमें खो जाता है और वो फिर it actually moves him emotionally in a way that is not expected. But to start out with, if you're telling a person who's been in a cafe, who you've manhandled, ये वो रखा है, घंटे हो गए हैं, डरे हुए हैं, मौत है चारों बाजू आपके, और फिर आप बोल रहे हो गिटार बजा, वो क्या, वो is an act of kindness? नहीं ना, मतलब, you know,
yeah,
it's not an act of kindness. So that, I think that there is that little distinction, but I see your point and I agree with it. I think part of a lot of what set it apart for me also as a performer is the fact that that was our take. It wasn't just a gun-toting terrorist.
Yeah. I mean, I asked this to Zahan bhai as well. I want to know, how was your childhood at your home? Apart from that, you have already told that you were more into playing cricket or football, and you were in your zone doing your work, what a child does, what a kid does in their childhood. Apart from that, I mean, it is really important to understand that आपका घर पे environment कैसा होता है, including कि आपके जो interests होते हैं, like you are into writing and acting, how much did your dad has influence on you?
I mean, just a massive amount, na boss. Matlab, your parents have an influence on you. Like, I mean, if also the amount of the kind of relationship I share with my parents, of course, they'll have a massive influence. You know, even if it's something as simple as actually the major artistic influence came not necessarily just from my father. From my father, the two things that sort of I got in terms of art and film and theatre was the fact that we would go for his rehearsals. सेट पे तो हम जाते नहीं थे ज़्यादा, रिहर्सल पे जाते थे. तो रिहर्सल में आप देख रहे हो कैसे नाटक को, सीन को तोड़ा जा रहा है, कैसे बनाया जा रहा है, कैसे आप हाउ यू आर सॉर्ट ऑफ टेलिंग अ स्टोरी, द इन्फ्लुएंसेस दैट आर एट प्ले, that, and then the fact that he would watch a lot of fantastic films, then read some lovely scripts or books on film. I remember Kieślowski on Kieślowski was something that as a 12-13-year-old I just picked up and मैं ऐसे ही पढ़ने लगा. and मतलब आप कोई ईस्टर्न यूरोपियन लेजेंड फिल्म मेकर की बातें पढ़ रहे हैं, शायद आपको आधा तो समझ में भी नहीं आ रहा है, बट कुछ ना कुछ तो आप इम्बाइब कर ही लेते हो. Another major artistic influence in terms of films was my grandfather, जिनके साथ हम लोग बैठ के हिचकॉक की बहुत फिल्में देखते थे. वो तो हिचकॉक के बहुत बड़े फैन थे. We'd watch a lot of Hitchcock films together. But I would say the major artistic influence was my mother. Sunday afternoon, Sunday mornings, kind of, there was a lot of like, चलो ये नाटक देखने चले गए, mostly to पृथ्वी, और यार clay modeling कर दिया, ऐसे ही, या फिर, because my mother is actually, I often say very often, my father is an actor. Incredible actor, but he's an actor. My mother is, she's an artist, she's an educator, she's been a Miss India, she's been an actor, she's been a whole bunch of things. And as an artist, she is multi-talented. So, हम लोग clay modeling कर रहे हैं, और फिर आपने अलग, you're painting certain things, whether it's on paper or canvas, or even, I remember, अभी मेरे घर में भी है, अभी भी, there are like things that we've made on tiles. Then you fire those tiles, you bake those tiles, and then you have that thing, So all those things, I think those played a major influence. And just appreciating all kinds of art, that was, I think, a major factor. Yeah.
So you always had a good bond with your father?
Yeah, more or less, it's been pretty good. मतलब बीच में obviously आपकी अनबन होते रहती है, छोटी मोटी चीज़ों को. हाँ, ऐसा होता ना कि मेरी कुछ आदतें हैं जो उनको बहुत खटकती है, उनकी आदतें हैं जो हमको खटकती है. We all hold out hope कि यार हम बताएंगे, जताएंगे तो शायद बदलाव होगा सामने वाले में, लेकिन लोग तो बदलते नहीं है ना ज़्यादातर. So, it's just those things. He's a very anxious person. So, sometimes वो थोड़ा आपको खटकता है, आप पे थोड़ा हावी होता है. But overall, just wonderful relationship, really. And now, actually, it's blossomed in a very interesting way, because we've always been we've always been very friendly with each other, like friends almost. And that was, he made a major effort after my brother turned like 15-16, I was 12-13. He made this effort of like, chalo, my kids are big now I'll, they'll be like my friends. Of course, it's never really like that, but to a large extent, and to a large extent, it does affect your outlook, So there was that. There's always been a lot of banter between us. तो हम लोग मतलब हमेशा टांग खींचने में, especially एक दूसरे की बहुत मजे लेते हैं. But now it's blossomed in a very interesting way because we're working together a lot. So I wrote a film that he acted in. Him and I have acted in another film actually that we shot with Mr. Anant Mahadevan. Okay. And fantastic cast. There's Adil Hussain sir, Gagan Devriya, Tanishtha is there, Dolly Ahluwalia ji, Sharib Hashmi. So just a fantastic bunch of like for me तो it's like amazing actors, and then my dad is also, I'm doing a lot of scenes opposite him. तो
Is it a theater release or OTT
वो सब यार तुम
वो idea
कैसे सवाल पूछते हो यार, हमको थोड़ी पता है.
नहीं already मतलब हो जाता है. For example, if Netflix is shooting, we already
no,
know.
it's अभी I'm not particularly sure what where that film will end up and all of those things. It's still we just finished shooting it. That'll be, we'll cut it and then
yeah. Depends on the editor again.
No, but yeah man, so तो उस हिसाब से तो बहुत ही मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग रिलेशनशिप बना है अभी पिताजी के साथ. उनसे सीखने को तो यार बहुत कुछ मिलता है ऑफ कोर्स, बट वो तो ऐसा हो गया ना, द मोमेंट आई सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टार्टेड वर्किंग इन फिल्म एंड थिएटर, my respect for him automatically increased, tenfold. Because once you realize the things you're going through on a smaller level, in his time, he was going through all of those things, but he also had the added pressure of, financially taking care of whether himself or his family or, which I very honestly, I don't. I have to take care of myself, which I do very comfortably. But वो कम टेंशन वाली बात है ना, वो जिम्मेदारियां कम है. तो सारी दिक्कतें, सारे जो ऑब्स्टिकल्स हैं, प्लस द प्रेशर ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल प्रेशर. सो ही हैज बीन थ्रू सो मच, व्हेन यू आर गोइंग थ्रू, लाइक यार ये इतना कठिन क्यों है, देन यू रियलाइज यार कोई आपके घर में ही जो है, जो मतलब गुजर के गया है इसके सब के थ्रू, और आपको फिर मतलब आप उनके लिए इज्जत तो मतलब 10 गुना बढ़ जाती है.
Exactly. Yeah.
नहीं यार, I'm thankful for that relationship actually. And you see, it's not easy, na boss. Like you have, if you are, and of course a lot of credit goes to my mother also, who had her own flourishing career, who then kind of, put the brakes on it to sort of raise my brother and I, by being there for us. And I think that's affected us not only as artists and all, but basically as human beings. It's invaluable, yaar. So those things, and especially in our field, it's not very common. It's such a transitory field. It's a difficult field. It plays on you mentally. It messes with your schedule. All of those things. But if you're still there for your kids, it's massive.
Yeah, true. I agree. Is your brother also looking to enter in the
No,
industry?
he was in Scoop. He does ads. He does a lot of theatre. Yeah, and he's been an AD for a very long time. He's done some massive films as an assistant director, including Ekta Tiger, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
yeah. And Bharat also.
So both of you are in the industry.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And so नहीं यार, तो वो उससे माहौल भी सही रहता है घर में. बात करने के लिए आपके पास हजारों चीजें होती है.
And same interest के लोग हैं.
तो वो बहुत सही होता है यार. Yeah, it's a good times.
Yeah.
And it's, I think what I feel most thankful about is, as human beings, what we tend to do is we tend to look back and say, yaar, those were the good times. I feel thankful for the fact that I can be in a moment and say, yaar, these are the good times. I need to value this moment. I need to savor this moment, So that is just on a human level, a part of growing up that I have really begun to actively think about. कि आपको यार कुछ मिला नहीं, काम को लेके या कुछ, आप वो disappointment को, how do you look at that disappointment? Can you look at that disappointment in a way where, man, this is also part of the journey and I can enjoy this feeling of being disappointed. Because that is what it is now. You have all of these feelings, you have negative feelings, you have positive feelings, but who is to say that sadness is a feeling that you shouldn't have? Or frustration is just a bad feeling. It's not, yeah. It's part of peaks and troughs. If you didn't feel sadness, you didn't feel frustration, what would be the value of joy? What would be the value of achievement or the value of success? It's like saying कि यार मैं रोज अगर सुबह उठ के शैम्पेन ब्रेकफास्ट करूंगा, चौथे दिन के बाद तो मेरे को शैम्पेन, कॉफी या गर्म पानी में कोई फर्क नहीं दिखेगा, है ना? तो फिर फायदा ही क्या है? So that is something that mental shift is actually बहुत मजेदार है यार.
I've started consuming theatre very recently.
I mean,
I was not even very open to that. I was at a place. I'm from a small town. I've no connection with this. I've no accessibility to even a theatre in the film theatre as well. So as much as I've seen now, and as much as I've listened to a lot of people like theater veterans, I am assuming that the interest in theater has gone down. Do you think that is the case, or is it the opposite?
That if the veterans seem to suggest that, then I would not be able to argue.
I mean, I
against
just want
that.
to know what
My
you have observed.
personal experience, to be very honest here, I did a couple of plays before I left. Then once I came back, I did Siachen and I acted in this play called As Bees in Honey Drown. Now, we have been very happy with the footfall as far as a new group is concerned for Siachen. You know, we've been, it's actually quite heartening that the number of people that have turned up. We hope to complete 50 shows by the end of this year. So, and the only way you can do that is if people turn up to watch your play, you know. So, I don't know what it is in comparison to जो पहले हुआ करता था, शायद कम हुआ होगा, I wouldn't know. But the one thing that I'm very hopeful for, the same thing that I'm afraid about for film is what I'm hopeful for theatre, is that, you know, with AI, with all of these things, the sort of live human interaction will be at a premium. When you have, what happens is that, you know, like for example, there's a theatrical tradition of the neutral mask, right? Which is like, you don't have dialogue and you're telling a story, you have the, you know, you have masks and those kind of things, and physical theatre and device theatre, the things I was talking about. Those things came up a lot post the Second World War. क्यों? क्योंकि लोगों का अल्फाजों पर का विश्वास हट गया था, क्योंकि उनको इतना झूठ बोला गया था, उनको इतनी गलत कहानियां सुनाई गई थी. Their minds were messed with. They had been through so much that the value of the word, of the spoken word, had diminished. And so
expressions and actions,
physical theatre and actions had a sort of a renaissance, if you will. In the same way, I feel like when AI sort of really kicks in, when the value of a video or something like that is diminished because it can be created at the press of a button, when what I look at on a screen, I instinctively, till now, even you're like, I imagine you're a little younger than me. I'm saying people who are even younger than us.
What is your age?
Even people who are younger than us will have grown up believing what they see on a video screen.
Yeah, true. Because that is more accessible.
But now there will come a time where if this, you know, AI video creation and all of that, which is a whole other bugbear of mine, but we can get into that if you want. But if when this sort of takes precedence, if it gets better and it comes to a point where you're actually able to create videos that aren't real, haven't been actually shot in a physical space, you will believe videos less and less.
True.
What will you prize more and more?
Physical.
Is that a person is sitting in front of me and doing it.
Yeah.
So I feel like cinema is a young medium. कितना 100, 120, 130 साल हो गए.
इंडिया में तो कितना 1813 में पहला फिल्म बना था.
1913 हाँ. तो वही ना, तो आप चलो ना, एक between 100 and 150 years आप उतना पकड़ो.
Almost a century.
थिएटर तो कब से चालू है? स्टोरी टेलिंग अराउंड अ बॉनफायर तो 4-5 हजार कम से कम है ना. Since you could communicate with each other, you are telling stories, and that some medium is not going to die. The idea of somebody being in a space and telling me a story, whether they're acting it out, whether they're just saying it, whether it's physical theatre, is not going to die. So I feel like over time, actually, I think theatre will be fine. Films are something that I am mortally afraid of with regards to AI and all of those things, which I also believe is at some level copyright theft of artists whose work you have scraped, but you've not adequately compensated them, and all of those things are a different topic. But as regards theatre, maybe it has diminished, but I think it'll be fine in the long run. That's my thinking.
I want to know and I think this is very crucial, your thought process when you are into acting or writing anything. So like we were talking about all these things that have happened recently, it was very much linked to my thought process as well. The way I have understood it,
Yeah.
what has happened, luckily, what I was planning to do and everything. In the same way, I want to know, when you are writing a particular kind of character or you are given a particular kind of character, what is your thought process behind it? How do you characterize yourself or characterize that kind of role for someone else?
I don't know if I have a satisfying answer to that question, because it's actually a very wide, it's a pretty sort of, the scope of that question is quite wide, in the sense that each character, you sort of have a different approach. I've now had the good fortune of playing characters that are actually far removed from who I really am, so when it's something like, say, the first film that I did, abhi Bamphard naam ki jo film thi, abhi that is about a boy who is in Allahabad. He's got, he's got this sort of bravado that is, quite common in that place. He has a way of life. He has a relationship with his family that's slightly different. So you understand those emotional dynamics. But for me, what I laid a major focus on, because those emotional dynamics were things that I could understand. The greater focus was on the body language, the accent, the sense of belonging to a place.
Yeah.
So that for me was Bamphard. But now with Faraaz, the big jump was actually trying to understand emotionally, intellectually who this person is, and to get to that sort of understanding, right? So that's understanding of a radicalized young man, which is very far from what I am emotionally. But in terms of speech and body language, it was actually closer to how I am physically, right? So that was a different sort of approach, and and so on and so forth. There's I don't think there is a one size fits all. Certainly not across the board for all roles as an actor or for all scripts as a writer. The one thing that I do believe in general, for me especially, is that the more work I put in to prepare, the more I can have fun when I am doing the actual writing or the actual performing.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I have, if I have a couple of roles that I'm playing now, very, very different. One actually is also somebody who suffers from incredible depression and substance abuse issues. So to sort of, just for me, what was important was to just understand what it does to you mentally, the substance abuse, how the depression leads to more substance abuse, and the more substance abuse leads to more depression. It's a vicious cycle. Yeah. The physicality of somebody who is, say, in withdrawal or high on those substances, or then sort of coming down from those substances when they are confronted about their habit, how they behave.
Yeah.
So all of those things, I just wanted to know whether it was some of them were in the story, like some of those phases, but even the phases that are not in the story, I know them very, very well. If I understand the thought process of somebody who is in that position, then when I go on set, I can forget everything and then just enjoy myself. That time I'm not thinking about, yaar, iska physicality kya hai, kyunki mujhe pata hai wo physicality kya hai. मैंने सोच समझ के जितनी मेरी क्षमता है, मैंने अपने हिसाब से इंस्टिल कर लिया. अब मैं जाके वो सब नहीं सोचूंगा सेट. तब मैं सोच रहा हूँ, I'm trying to situate myself in the time, the place, and what my intention is as a character. But I can only do that with freedom and with enjoyment if I've done the work, at least for me.
Yeah.
Same goes for writing. If I'm writing a show or a film or a play even, I believe in, really researching that world, really figuring out what the mindset of those characters is, and then put them in the place. So now I feel like I know them. Now I can sit across a table and then they'll talk to each other, because now I'm almost not using my remote control. I'm letting the character speak, and that's the sweet spot. So that's what you're aiming for, even as an actor, even as a writer.
True, I agree. I agree. Yeah. I mean, yes. So, like, आप कंफ्यूज नहीं हो सेट पे जाके, which like is very crucial for anyone.
Confused. I mean, you won't
So
ever have
your
complete clarity with anything, no? In art, because
Haan.
in life also you don't have complete, like, I know me right now, who I am, how I am as a person, but even when I'm telling you something, I'm still thinking there are 2-3 roads I can go down. Even I, as myself, I'm not 100% clear, no? So
Yeah.
then as an actor playing a character, how can you be 100% clear? But that is the aim. It is that
Yeah.
unachievable aim, but it is what you strive for.
Try
so
to
that
get as close as possible.
so
Yeah.
that the choices, because there'll always be choices, there'll always be a little bit of confusion, which I think is good. But the choices that you make come as naturally as possible. It's not as instinctively as possible, but that can only happen when you have done the groundwork.
Yeah, I agree. The production that you have, is it only gonna focus on theaters,
No,
or
we've done a film also.
Okay.
There's a film called Dear Father that's out
Okay.
on Amazon.
is it short film or
No, it's a feature length
Okay.
film. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a Gujarati film. We've done that. We've done this play, and yeah, no, there is an aim to do both film, and so that was the idea, right? It was when we were figuring out the name. We knew 72 East was something that we wanted to call it, but it was, was it 72 East Film, 70, then it's 72 East Production, because
The same thing happened with us.
across the board.
Small man production रखे, small man films रखे.
हाँ वही ना, तो so that was very much the sentiment. It's like you want to tell your stories, boss.
Yeah.
And some stories are better told on a stage, and some stories are better told on a screen.
True.
Is this, like, if you're like the play, the Queen is set in the 16th century in a fictional kingdom.
Is it this kingdom is English, British?
No, it's a fictional kingdom in India.
Okay.
Yeah. But the play is written in English. But so in this fictional place, it's about this queen who's, who was once a great sort of partner, both, in terms of as a queen and as a wife to the king, and now he's taken another wife, and she's been sort of shunted
Left
to the
out,
west
yeah.
wing of the palace, where she can only see the sunset, and that is her reality in life. Now, I want to tell that story. I don't think in this current form I can tell it as a film. This medium for this is the stage, and so it's almost the story that decides the medium.
Yeah, because it's a slow process.
It's not necessarily about slow or fast, but yeah, that is also one aspect of things. There are, it's just.
I mean, I'm able to see, yes, why you want to make it as a theater play than compared to the film.
As a film, yeah. And then you can. There's also that sense of what is happening in the play is situated around this one space of hers in the west wing of the palace, but what is happening outside is rather large. So the moment, say, for example, what would make a very interesting film is if I also expanded to the points of view of the other characters. Then you're talking about a bit more expansive drama, kind of like The Lion in Winter. I don't think you've seen it. So it's wonderful. I think it was a play and then it was a film. I've only seen the film.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so you can sort of expand that, and then it becomes something else. But the form of the story or rather the story you want to tell sort of decides the form and the medium.
Yeah, understood. Now this segment is my favorite segment because I get to know a lot.
Oh my!
Get a lot of recommendations for films and series and everything.
Okay.
Tell me about your favorite films. I say no limit, no 5,
limit.
10, 15, nothing.
Okay. I really like one of my favorite films is this film called A Serious Man. It's by the Coen brothers. It is just an incredible film because I saw the film. I didn't understand it. But something still compelled me to watch it again. एक रात में मैंने 2 बार देख ली film. And that film still moves me in ways that is just baffling to me because it's that thing of, you see a great piece of engineering when it's working and you don't understand how it works. आप कभी एक्टिंग देखते हो, आपको समझ में आता है कि अच्छा ये एक्टर ने ये चॉइस किया है या राइटर का हाथ दिख जाता है. इसमें मुझे कुछ नहीं दिखता यार, इसमें मुझे यार कलाकारी ही दिखती, कहानी ही दिखती, कैरेक्टर ही दिखता है. It's loosely inspired by the book of Job,
Okay.
which is the idea that, is a man who is trying to be a good man. He's trying to be a serious man. But life, and in the case of the book of Job, God keeps throwing things at him that are just incredibly painful and difficult to deal with. And you have this idea of कि यार मैं सही तो कर रहा हूँ, why is this happening to me? And it's a black comedy.
What is a black comedy?
Well, I suppose the sense that I mean it in with this is it sounds like, when I described it, it sounded like a tragedy, right? But those moments are meant for comedy. And when this person is going through, the most excruciating of circumstances, it is actually also because of the performance, because of the taking, because of the writing, it actually induces laughter. It makes you laugh, So comedy, I suppose, derived from situations that might not come across as immediately comedic. A Serious Man, fantastic. Another lovely coming of age film is this film called Il Posto.
Okay.
It's I think 60s या 70s में set है. Bernardo Olmi करके director है.
Spanish film?
नहीं, it's an Italian film.
Okay.
It's about a young man who goes to Milan to work in an office. And it's just about his coming of age. It captures that moment in time in a young man's life, and that moment in time in Italy, in Milan, in the way the world was changing over there, so well. It's like it transports you immediately, and it's just a fantastic watch. It's actually a lovely watch. It's a beautiful film. Another film that I really like is there's Three Colors Blue. Okay. Which is Kieślowski's film, which I really love, because that was a film that I watched along with a friend of mine like 5 or 6 times just to analyze and just to figure out how he does these things. And then when you're picking it apart, you realize the mastery that is at play. And when you move away from that analysis, you are still moved by the film. You're still moved by the characters. You're still swayed by the journey. I think that is that is the magic of a master at work. These are also, is a thing of, right now you ask me this
effect has a certain kind of effect on you. Yeah,
massive effect. But it's also that thing of there's the answer to the question, what is your favorite whatever, can change. It's like whatever. Yeah. The way I like to read those questions,
as much as you consume it.
No, it's also it's like right now it is that you ask me the same question tomorrow, another couple of names come to mind. You know what I'm saying? So it's that thing of abhi aapne pucha, so what are the first 3 that sort of come to mind are the ones you sort of mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're just absolutely massive influence.
And what about Hindi films?
Hindi films, I absolutely loved, and if I get the name wrong, you'll cut it out. But I absolutely loved Garam Hawa.
Okay.
Which had Mr. Balraj Sahni in the lead. It was about a Muslim man who chose to stay back in India after partition, and then sort of his life started unraveling. It's an old film. Yeah. Mr. Balraj
I've heard
Sahni,
of the name, but
it's just an incredible film, and his performance is oof. The dignity, the sadness, the longing, the determination, all of it, the way he has embodied matlab, it is. I was just floored by the power of that man as an actor, and also the story is just beautiful. It's a spoiler, but he decides to stay back at the end, and I think in that sense it is also very uplifting. Garam Hawa is a big influence. I really like Talwar.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite films in the recent past. I love the work of Chaitanya Tamhane also, whether it's Court or Disciple. I quite enjoyed those
Court
films.
is such a good
film. They are Marathi films, but
Court is...
Yeah, I mean they're mostly Marathi, no?
I watched it with
So, no, we
subtitles.
watched Hindi film इसके लिए, but नहीं यार, those are, that's a film by a Bombay film, if you will.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
वो दिखाता है बहुत नज़ाकत के साथ सिस्टम में फॉल्ट क्या है, द प्रॉब्लम, एंड बहुत प्यार से दिखाता है दैट हाउ something like UAPA could be used against you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just also the political. That's the political. That's the sort of the intricacies of the story, and that's the, you understand the larger sense of the larger sort of society that we live in, and its flaws, and all of those, and its merits, and the kindness and the generosity that you still can show within this system. But what I love about it is really the way he has made that film, those films rather, both of them, is you understand at some level the lived experience of somebody who's going through that, which is incredible. Because some of the greatest films in terms of the films that show a lot of politics and all of those things, they give you a great understanding of the world, of the politics, but it's not necessary that you feel the lived experience of the character that's going through that story. You're still kind of understanding a system from a distance. So that aspect, I think, is incredible in both of his films. So yeah, those are two Indian films that I really really enjoy. I love the work of ये थोड़ा भी हिंदी नहीं है. I suppose the language would be Maithili, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But there is the Achal Mishra करके एक director हैं.
Okay.
And they've made some films that are set in and around Darbhanga in Bihar.
All right.
And यार क्या कमाल की पिक्चर हैं. और एक मेरा मित्र है उसमें जो एक्टर है अभिनव झा, कमाल का काम है उनका. And just those films and the way they have represented their world and brought it out and brought it to us, I think is incredible.
What film is that?
There is Gamak Ghar.
Okay.
And Pokhar Ke Dunu Paar.
Okay.
These two films are the ones that I deeply enjoy. Yeah.
So now that you're saying, you're talking about Maithili language being used as a film, यूपी बिहार तो मतलब सबसे ज़्यादा मतलब इसको बहुत
निचोड़ा
गलत तरह से देखा जाता है, the way Bhojpuri industry works. I mean something so? Like Nirahua, someone like Pawan Singh, the way the focus on those films are so much that people don't really know much about all these films that you are right now talking about.
So to begin with, I think every film, every kind of performer, all of those things have their place. ठीक है? So to decry the fact that these films are popular, I think in itself is a bit arrogant. लोगों को पसंद है ना यार, किसी कारण के लिए पसंद है, किसी कारण के लिए उनको इमोशनली मूव करता है ना?
It's a cringe fest, honestly. You also enjoy it.
No, I've actually not seen. I've not seen the films of Nirahua or Pawan Singh.
I've heard the songs.
I see. Fair enough. Then maybe, yeah. I mean, like, look, what I meant to say was, on a general level, I think to put down any work of art or any kind of endeavor of filmmaking, whether is a bit sort of dismissive. But your experience is different from mine. I have also not seen those films, so I can't comment on those films specifically.
Those are like made for the crowd who wants to enjoy in that UP Bihar setting, who knows that Bhojpuri language really well, who feel like, okay, this guy, we are having the same, we are sharing those experiences. It is made more like that. It is made for the.
Why is it a bad?
No.
Describing a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing, as in, like, if I look at it in a positive way, the way it is interpreted, it is interpreted badly by those people who don't have that kind of sad experiences. These people are those people, those who don't know Bhojpuri much. Yeah, exactly. So that is why. Yeah.
अभी ठीक है ना, अगर मैं वही जनता को अगर मैं कहूँ कि चलो आप 3 colors blue देख लो, तो उनको नहीं जमेगा ना, उनके लिव रियलिटी से इतना दूर है वो कि नहीं जमेगा उनको. तो उनके लिए तो मतलब इट्स दैट थिंग ना कि सबके लिए मेसी बेस्ट है. गोइंग बैक टू द बिगिनिंग ऑफ आवर कन्वर्सेशन, सबके लिए मेसी बेस्ट है, लेकिन किसी के लिए यार जूलियट बिनोश इज नथिंग कंपेयर्ड टू अ निरहुआ एंड वाइस वर्सा.
मतलब वहाँ पे निरहुआ या पवन सिंह अगर आ रहे हैं तो वो जो
हाँ मतलब
भीड़ लगती है, जब मेरे टाउन में भी निरहुआ आया था एंड एवरीवन, वो लोग ट्रक पे आते हैं, ट्रक पे टॉप पे बैठ के एंड एवरीवन सराउंड्स देम विद साइकिल।
कुछ अलग ही किस्म का कल्चरल एक्सपीरियंस है ना बॉस,
कल्ट है इनका। एंड ऑनेस्टली रात को 2 बज रहा हो, बाथरूम में अगर मैं बैठा हूँ ईयरफोन लगा के, आई एम लिसनिंग टू दोस सॉन्ग्स, नॉट गोना लाई, एंड आई एम जस्ट डांसिंग ऑन दैट।
तो वही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ, तो जजमेंट किस बात का, तुम समझ रहे हो मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ? इट इज सो inherent to your lived experience to the point where it is a part of your growing up also. तो वो भी कमाल की चीज है ना कि वो आपके मतलब जहन में ऐसा उतर गया है, आपके दिल को ऐसा छू गया है कि आप 2 बजे पैखाने में बैठ के भी ईयरफोन लगा के वही सुन रहे हो। इनक्रेडिबल ना बॉस।
आई मीन वेरी गुड एग्जांपल, स्त्री 2 आई नहीं, sung by पवन सिंह, राइट? पवन सिंह and काटी रात मैंने खेतों में तू आई नहीं, and it was a hit song. I mean everyone was listening to it. Again there is this film of Vicky Vidya का वो वाला video, the film. It has a song named Chumma, and again this is sung by him.
देखो ना, so it's and these things influence each other ना boss. मतलब Tarantino भी, he was influenced a lot by the slasher films and by the, what are they called? I forget the genre, but like, you know, effectively films that are not necessarily seen as high art. He was inspired by those films, and look at the stuff he's made. यही तो सुंदरता है ना, यही तो ब्यूटी है यार कलाकारी की, स्टोरी टेलिंग की, कि हम कहाँ से क्या निकाल के ले जाते हैं, और फिर इस सब के बीच, इस त्योहार के बीच आप ऐसी पिक्चरें बना रहे हैं जो दरभंगा में सेट है और जो आपके लिव्ड एक्सपीरियंस के इतने करीब है, आपके परफॉर्मेंसेस इतने कमाल है कि आपको परफॉर्मेंस नहीं दिखता है, आपको दिखता है तो इंसान दिखता है। क्या कमाल। वो एक पोखर में द 2 actors, then of course other actors were all very good, but Abhinav and I think her name is pronounced Taneya Khan Jha, fantastic, yeah, they are so good, their frustrations with each other, their love for each other, their longing for each other, their longing for a better life, incredible. एंड ये बन रहा है यार, कमाल की चीज है, लोग बना रहे हैं, और क्या चाहिए।
The good thing is all, I mean the way songs connect you with a different culture. Very good example is Punjabi songs.
Yeah.
Who is our global superstar? Diljit Dosanjh.
Yeah.
We all dance on his songs, but we don't understand the meaning. We were following Sidhu Moosewala so much, listening to his songs in the car while driving. We don't understand, but still we feel it.
Which is a very interesting thing about music. So music is one of the most abstract arts and yet one of the most accessible in terms of the effect also that it has on you. So it's like मैं कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट बजाऊंगा, कोई एकदम फॉरेन इंस्ट्रूमेंट जो हमने पहले शायद सुना ना हो, हमारा रेफरेंस नहीं हो, कि अभी चलो ठीक है हमको इतना वेस्टर्न इन्फ्लुएंस आ गया, अपने कर्नाटिक वायलिन्स भी हैं, सो द मोमेंट स्ट्रिंग्स कम इनटू प्ले, you know that there's a sense of sadness, there's a sense, I'll give you a foreign instrument and that you probably have never heard of before or heard before, and you play just a tune, and in general everyone just instinctively will feel a similar emotion.
True.
You know, whether it's sadness, whether it's joy. अल्फाज नहीं है, सामने आपको एक्सप्रेशन नहीं दिख रहा है किसी का, शायद कोई गा भी नहीं रहा है, लेकिन फिर भी आपको it's like, you know, great art also makes you emotional, like great paintings and all of those things, but still the things that can be derived from a painting that makes somebody feel incredibly joyous might not be the same for somebody else. With music, the emotional effect that it seems to have is a bit more uniform in general, which I think is magical. तुम सोचो ना, मतलब कोई कुछ बता नहीं रहा है कैसे फील करना है, लेकिन वो मैं करके आपको समझ में आ जाएगा।
म्यूजिक का, आई मीन हमारा एक कोर्स था म्यूजिक एप्रिसिएशन का, वेयर फॉर द फर्स्ट 3-4 hours of like studying that or understanding music, the conversation was just about how music is not made by humans. It is just the nature. Because
that's beautiful.
Just think you are that first person, is a homo sapien, having leaves around you as your clothes, and you wake up to what? Bird noises, ocean, all those sounds. If we collect
wind,
them together, and
oof.
when we put it into our ears, we feel sleepy, or we can feel that we connect to that.
That's so
And
true.
that, I mean, आप कितना एविडेंट है वो, बट आपको रिमाइंड जब कराया जा रहा है, लाइक फक,
Incredible,
shocked.
yeah, boss. हाँ.
and then
वाकई में.
accordingly you are understanding nature, you are connecting yourself with nature, and then you are maybe making strings and maybe using a lot of stuff to create certain kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It could be percussion stuff, it could be guitar or any string stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's
wind instruments. How do you understand it? How do you feel it? I mean, जब आप nature से ही connected हो, the way you have evolved with nature, in the context of music, it will always surprise you in one way or another.
It's true.
I mean, we were editing उस्ताद जाकिर जी का डॉक्यूमेंट्री हम बना रहे थे, एक छोटी सी फिल्म बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे थे, और उसमें उन्होंने बात की कि उनके पिताश्री ने उनको इतना म्यूज़िक सिखाया, और वो बोले आज तक इतने बड़े उस्ताद हैं, सबसे बड़े तबला वादक देश के वही रहे हैं, सबको वही मालूम है, बट वो तब भी बात करते थे कि मेरे पिताश्री का जो कनेक्शन था म्यूजिक से, वो आज तक मैं अचीव नहीं कर पाया हूँ. एंड यू आर सरप्राइज्ड, आई मीन इफ ही इज द लेजेंड,
उनको भी लगता है कि कोई कसर छूटी है.
हाँ, तो आई मीन हमारा कुछ अंडरस्टैंडिंग ही नहीं है. वी आर ऑलवेज गोना गेट
इन अ वे दैट्स सो ब्यूटीफुल ना. इट आल्सो लाइक it gives you, makes you feel humble, but it also frees you in a way where यार तुम
खेलो भाई,
तुम उस्ताद जाकिर हुसैन बन जाओ, फिर भी तुमको मतलब वो that sense of the lack of fulfillment or that little bit of dissatisfaction will always remain, which is just beautiful.
Yeah. Because
नहीं, but yeah, music
us as humans have a lot of limitations.
Yeah, man.
Music, which is part of nature, is endless.
Yeah.
Wherever you reach, it's just like very, I mean, universe ही देख लो, it's nothing.
कमाल है ना, मतलब वो. And there's also like, you know, the sound that things make, like apparently, like, you know, even when a tree is growing, there's a sound within it, and those is just magic. It's magic.
I mean, even a cricket is like when it's night and dark and a tick tick, however it sounds. I mean, itne sare sound. When I was recently listening to a lot of bird sounds, weird bird sounds, and I'm like, oh, ये तो same sound है जो horror films में use होता है, and it's actually a bird sound. It's a natural sound which is being used. I used to think, okay, this has been made by certain kind of instrument or something. Like, okay, they have taken this because this makes you feel scared.
Yeah, on a visceral level.
Yeah.
On such a deeply emotional level, because that is where our sort of how our wiring is made. Huh?
Now when we think
you play a musical instrument?
Yeah, I play guitar.
अरे वाह.
I beatbox.
क्या बात है.
And I also do keyboard पे थोड़ा बहुत.
क्या बात है यार.
Once I came here, all my instruments are at my home. I only have my guitar here and my lips here to beatbox.
But बजाते हो तुम?
Yes.
क्या बात है.
Yeah, so I have a classical guitar, a normal acoustic guitar, and one electric guitar.
अच्छा.
Yeah. So I was in full mood to कि हाँ, I'll go to my dad and ask, Papa Berkeley भेज दो. And then I'm like, नहीं प्रणव, शांत हो जाओ, रुक जाओ.
Wow.
So I have all that at my place. Once my college is done and once I'm fully into work, I'll get all those here and we'll start doing that.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, that's the one thing there's one talent I wish I had, which is the talent of like playing a music instrument.
Just pick it up and
हाँ, वो है यार, वो बात तो है, but वो कभी I don't know हुआ नहीं है शायद. वो इतना reverence भी है ना वो चीज़ के लिए कि ऐसा लगता है यार हमसे तो कहाँ हो पाएगा.
3 महीने आप प्रैक्टिस करो, आपकी उंगलियां छिल जानी चाहिए. That should be the goal. That should be the goal. And होता क्या है, I realized it afterwards. I mean, if I'm trying to have a grip on something, on let's say this, मेरी उंगलियां जो डैमेज हुई थी, जो चोट लगी थी, उसके बाद जो स्किन आई, that was more grippier because you need it for strings.
Yeah. That's your, I mean, it's seasoning almost. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's practice. I've understood this. You can be anything.
That's true. That's true. And if you're doing it for yourself, then there's not even that pressure of doing it.
I mean,
necessarily.
lockdown helped me and
sure.
learn this.
Did you go back home for lockdown?
I just finished class 10th जब first lockdown लगा. So hostel में था मैं बनारस में.
वाकई में मतलब बहुत जवान हो. ऐसा नहीं कि तुम मतलब खींच नहीं रहे थे हमारी.
मैं 20 का हूँ.
क्या बात है. चलो ठीक है.
आप कितने का? 28?
नहीं. No. 31.
Okay. So, what are the Indian shows and foreign shows that you would like to recommend people? I mean, the way you explained all those 3 films.
Yeah.
उसी तरह से आप एक्सप्लेन करो तो 2 चीज़ हो जाएगी. पीपल विल अंडरस्टैंड इट वेल और वो उसका वायरल जाने का चांस भी ज़्यादा हो जाएगा.
ऐसा होता है क्या? अच्छा. Okay. Let's see.
I mean, I think you explained it really well.
Thank you. But I would say let's start with the foreign shows. 2 shows that really get me are The Wire.
Oh, lovely.
The Wire is a forensic analysis of the underbelly of Baltimore, Maryland. अब ये क्या कमाल की चीज़ है कि Baltimore, Maryland, where I have never been, is a place where I can find different versions of myself through this show.
Yeah.
How it was made is, in my opinion, the only way to make something when you're representing, when you're trying to create a world for the screen or for the stage or whatever. The writer immersed himself alongside, I think he was a journalist to begin with or something. He immersed himself in the world of Baltimore police law enforcement. Okay, so he knows for I think 4 or 5 years. So he knows the ins and the outs of the lives of the cops, the criminals that they deal with, the characters that they face on a day-to-day basis and the city. अभी ये सब ज्ञान प्राप्त करके उसने फिर शो लिखा. So the level of detail, the level of understanding, the understanding of the mindset, the understanding of these people, the way he's able to humanize the most seemingly inhumane characters is incredible.
Yeah.
ठीक है, इट इज, और ये सिर्फ तभी हो सकता है जब आप वो दुनिया में एकदम मतलब
डूब गए हो. हाँ,
डूब गए हो मतलब किस तरीके से डूब गए हो सालों के लिए, है ना. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स सम इनक्रेडिबल एक्टर्स टू ब्रिंग आउट दोज वर्ल्ड्स एंड व्हाट legends actually. I mean, like, you know, people like Idris Elba and all that, one of the earlier shows, earlier pieces of work on screen. Incredible. So I think that the understanding that you are able to create, you're able to bring a world to me that I didn't know anything about, and I'm able to see it like it's on the back of my hand is magic. I also think that nowadays when we talk about hit films specifically or hit shows, the one thing that I feel audiences are seeking out in the last, since COVID maybe, if you notice, it is not 9 out of 10, but majority of the times, it is the world that grabs people. And of course the characters in that world, but I would...
The setting basically.
See, not just the setting, the entire world. And I'm including the characters in that world. So what I mean to say is, something like, say, Blackwater, something like, say, The Wire. So though of course very different shows and all of those things, but something like even like Kantara, the film. What is it? You're throwing me into something that is alien to me, but I understand it, and then I see myself in that alien world. So what I'm getting is something that I would not have got if I saw some random YouTube video, something that I'm not getting if I see any other film. I'm getting it only in your film, and then I'm getting to see myself on top of that. So to me, right now, I feel the one thing that, at least if I look at myself as an audience member, the one thing I want to see is different worlds. And I want to see those worlds created very, very well. I want that detail and rigor in that world. And that can only come when you've done your homework as a writer or as a creator or as a director or even as an actor. Right? So that I think is really alluring. And that is why I feel something like The Wire is phenomenal. Another show that everyone loves and with good reason is, something like Breaking Bad. It is an example of really good television. And it's the skill lies in the fact that if I come and tell you you're a producer, even today, and I come and tell you that, I want to make a show about a professor of chemistry who's got cancer and he's unhappy in his life, and then he realizes he's going to die, so he says, "Okay, no, I'm going to start cooking meth," and then he becomes a massive drug lord. ये है कहानी तो यही है ना.
तू मैथ लेके आएगा someone would ask that. हाँ,
क्या कहानी बनाई है इस पे, मतलब
Vince Gilligan
शो बनाया है इस कहानी पे. इसको बोलते हैं कलाकार यार. And then of course Chernobyl, again for the same reason as The Wire. You've given me a world, you've given me an understanding of a world, and then you tugged at my heartstrings and fucking torn them apart. So beautiful. As far as shows are concerned, Indian shows are concerned, इस पे जरा गौर करना पड़ेगा. What are some shows you like?
मेरा तो सबसे पहला रहता है पाताल लोक.
Patal Lok is incredible.
Yeah, I mean nothing better than
Patal Lok is
nothing.
is
I
really
don't find anything better than Patal Lok.
बहुत ही बेहद मतलब कमाल चीज बनाई है यार.
मतलब मैं पूरे मतलब लोगों से पूछ रहा हूँ भाई सुदीप शर्मा को कौन जानता है अच्छे से, प्लीज गेट हिम
कसम से यार. और क्या मतलब क्या परफॉर्मेंसेस, क्या स्टोरी टेलिंग है. यही है ना, आपने वो दुनिया को ऐसे मतलब दिखाया है हमको कि वी बिलीव यू, वी आर विथ यू, अब आप लेके जाओ हमको. इवन द सेकंड सीजन ना, incredible. Then another show that I really enjoyed was I really liked Scoop. I really liked Scoop because again it gave me an understanding into a world that I thought I knew a fair amount about, but then you know just how it's a thing of कि यार हम बाहर से देखते हैं किसी चीज को, हम stats सुनते हैं, हम information निकालते हैं, so it's all new to us, so it's all thrilling to us. But when you're seeing characters in that space where for them it's not necessarily super new, for them it's normalized. So it's a bizarre system that is normalized for people who are in that story. तो उनके लिए जो normal reality है ना, जब आप वो समझते हो कि यार मेरे लिए तो ये कमाल है, but for this character this is her day to day, and you can see that. That's because the storytellers have understood that world so well. Yeah. वो कमाल की चीज है. So I would say for me like two of the greater shows are for me like Scoop and Patal Lok. What else is there? I'm sure I'm missing out on things. Is that when you put somebody on the spot, na? Then I'll go home and I'll remember 3 amazing examples.
मैं तो दिन भर यही सोचता रहता हूँ. So
और कौन सा show है यार?
Put me on the spot and I'll give you 10 names.
Indian shows, of course, there are many others like Scam.
मुझे ड्रामास बहुत पसंद है. प्रीमियर ड्रामास बहुत पसंद है. तो जैसे मुझे लगता है रॉकेट बॉयज बहुत पसंद है मुझे. ठीक है, रॉकेट बॉयज एंड दैट. सो जब मैं रॉकेट बॉयज देखा, उसके पहले तक my favorite actor was Ayushmann Khurrana. Okay. And once I was done with Rocket Boys, I was like Jim Sarf. Oh yeah. I love you. ऐसा. Okay. Yeah. So Rocket Boys हो गया. Chernobyl you said so आपने Chernobyl बोला. Also Sanket Matre talked about Chernobyl. Okay. And Chernobyl is one of the best. Again period drama है. Something like Mad Men. Again a period drama. Interesting. But it shows you a lot about that time, especially in the context of how blacks were treated. Yeah. And how misogynistic world was back then. Yeah. Something like Scam, again period drama. And again, like if you see Scam, this is the world. It's presented to you a world that has its own rules. And in that world, there are certain ways you survive, there are certain ways you thrive, and there are certain ways that you fall. And those rules might not apply exactly the same to a different world. You know, like Poachers. Very lovely, very specific show. You can feel it, you know, because it's understood on an inherent level. Yeah. Delhi Crime. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, up slowly, I'm started shifting more towards some kind of fiction shows. Because एक जगह कहीं तो मैंने comment पढ़ा था, humans don't have the ability to understand everything all at once. Fiction somewhere takes you closer to that. Of course. Yeah, and I was like, okay, bro, very well. Yeah. So now I'm gonna stop reading a lot of non-fiction. Let's read Kafka. Let's read a lot of other people. Because again, Breaking Bad is my favorite. It's not reality. It's fiction. Far from. Better Call Saul. Yeah. I mean, such a good show. 70 something nominations, one no award. But that's what I'm saying.
who, like, in the long run, who cares?
People will think about the number of nominations.
No, we will not. Why are you bringing it up? Are you bringing it up because they didn't win awards? Or are you bringing it up because it's a fantastic show?
That is what I am bringing it because 73
Do
nominations.
you remember how many awards, the ones that won awards, the films and shows that won awards?
I mean,
do you remember how many awards they won?
I mean, I only know Breaking Bad because मैं Breaking Bad ही हर समय consume कर रहा था. Open YouTube, open see the number of awards. Bryan Cranston has won, or Aaron Paul has won, or Vince Gilligan has won.
I see.
And so I only remember that, but no one cares.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
You care
how
about
many
how it touched
Oscars
you.
does? Yeah,
Exactly.
Nolan has won for Oppenheimer.
I
but
see. अच्छा.
Interstellar, Prestige.
यार वही तो स्कॉर्सेज़ी को 95 में अवार्ड, आई थिंक 90 नहीं, डिपार्टेड के लिए अवार्ड मिला ना पहली बार तो, और इतनी सारी पिक्चरें बना के आपको डिपार्टेड के लिए ऑस्कर मिल रहा है. मतलब क्या है वो चीज? तो व्हाई, like it's also that thing of कि यार आपको मतलब you know who remembers this film called Crash? I mean, just before your time, I think also. But it's that thing of कि yes, it won an Oscar, but really it's not so much. I mean, Oscars of course help in many ways, and one would obviously love and one dreams about winning those kind of awards, and you know that kind of legitimacy, recognition, validation is always welcome. But to attach that kind of importance to it, I think is especially like, for example, in a discussion like ours where it's like, boss, who cares how many awards it was, you know?
Yeah, true. So I mean, something like Patal Lok or something like Bandish Bandits.
Okay.
Bandish Bandits, I loved the first season, but I was like, this is Anand Tiwari, I'm so happy. Anand Tiwari has made something like that. Now season 2, I mean, equally good. Different type of songs. It's a fusion with Western world. It's Garaj in rock version. I mean, you love it equally. मतलब आपको कभी लगा ही नहीं, आप जैसे डर होता है, जैसे मिर्जापुर आया. मिर्जापुर season 1 सिर्फ मैं बोलूँगा, that will come in my 5th or 6th position.
I see.
Season 2 I was like, अरे यार इनको तो season 3 बनाना था, इन्होंने इसलिए season 2 लिखा. And then season 3 trailer से I was disappointed. So I don't leave shows in the middle. I left the season 3 in the middle because I was like, bro, what have they done? Our expectations were, where were those expectations and where have they, what are these performances?
I've not seen the second and third season. First season I loved.
First
like
season
everyone
is,
did.
I mean,
beautiful.
I'd
been meaning to watch the second and third season. Maybe I will after we've spoken now.
Yeah. And Railwayman. Railwayman would easily come in my top 10 easily. Black Warrant is again in top 10.
Fantastic show.
Something like Sacred Games is also really good. Because Sacred Games was the entry point for all the viewers of web series in India.
For sure.
And when you have Vikramadit Motwani working, then you are supposed to sit quietly and watch whatever he is giving you, because you might not get it for next 5 years because जल्दी नहीं आते यार. I mean, I have to wait for very long.
एक ही तो इंसान है ना बॉस. नहीं, but कमाल यार. I feel like he's one of the most complete filmmakers that we have. Somebody who is just so good at who seems to be so much in control of his craft. मैं जान भाई को बहुत परेशान करने वाला हूँ. विक्रम सर को लाओ. मैं बहुत पहले भी बोला उनको. Please bring और यार उनका जो knowledge है उनके साथ, मतलब मेरा तो नसीब रहा, मैं एक ही बार उनसे बराबर से बैठ के मिला हूँ. 2-3 बार वी रन इनटू ईच अदर इन प्लेसेस, बट यार उनके साथ बैठ के आपको समझ में आता है कि ज्ञान का भंडार है वो आदमी, और वो अनुभवी खिलाड़ी है ऊपर से. तो मतलब आपको जो उनसे सीखने को मिलता है ना बॉस, इनक्रेडिबल है. सम रियली इज इन अ वे आई फील लाइक ही इज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन unto himself. I don't think he would agree, obviously, because you know, everyone has but I really think that he's somebody we need to cherish.
Yeah, true, I agree. I have one in my mind all the time, but I want to ask you, which if you have to give one name, this is my favorite Indian film.
Favorite Indian film?
I mean Hindi.
Yeah, okay.
Bollywood. Of recent times, जो मतलब पिछले 20 साल भी बोल सकते हैं. क्या 60 साल पहले का याद नहीं रहता है.
There's so many. that you feel
अच्छा
kind of
just एक नाम मत बताइए, still those
okay.
films.
Black Friday, I think is incredible,
mhm.
incredible film. I think also same maker, but Vasipur 1 and 2 are fantastic also because of the effect that they had on filmmaking after. Masan is incredible as
Neeraj
well. And you're
Gaiwan.
only asking Hindi, huh?
Yeah.
I really, really liked Newton. Especially for me, the high point of the film was when the song plays Panchi Ud Gaya, is when you've seen everything that's gone, all the imperfections and the flaws in the process of having an election in the most remotest of an Indian region. And still
वहाँ भी कोई सरकारी बाबू है जो
नहीं सब कुछ है, सारे फ्लॉज हैं बॉस,
हाँ.
सारे फ्लॉज हैं, लेकिन फिर भी होता है. And that in itself is a triumph.
Yeah.
And you understand the bittersweet nature of that moment when the election is happening and this most amazing song, Panchi Ud Gaya, plays. And you see, there's a moment where there's a foreign journalist saying, the largest democratic process in the history of the world. And here you have, and she's obviously saying it like it's an incredible achievement, which it is. But that statement that she makes doesn't encompass all that we have seen that has come in the film before.
True. Yes.
So I think that aspect of it कि यार जो आपको दिखता है surface पे, उसके नीचे कितनी tragedies और comedies और miracles होते हैं वो moment तक पहुंचने के लिए, जो हम एक synthesize करके हम बोल देते हैं, essentialize करके हम बोल देते हैं क्योंकि अपना काम होता है, whether as a reporter or whatever. But all those multitudes that exist within that moment, I think that moment, it really, that film goes on another level for me then. And then of course then it in trying to resolve the plot and all of the things, there are things that the character does, whether it's stealing the ballot box and all of those things, which in and of themselves they work, but that moment that you arrive at just before, I think is the most one of the most profound moments for me also, because just like you I like to understand political process and governance and administration.
होने वाली हैं, आएंगी नहीं
वो तो अलग, but yeah, no, so तो वो जब आपको उसमें रस रहता है, लेकिन फिर आप पर्सनल लेवल पे वो चीज को समझते हैं ना, when it deepens your understanding on a personal level. Like एक और फ्रेंच फिल्म है यार, ला एन करके.
Okay.
It's The Hate, essentially. Okay. And it's about these films. So in Paris, outside of Paris, there are these things called the banlieues, which are these suburbs that are for, I think, immigrant or lower income groups. And they were meant to be like this thing of you're creating a society and, helping them rehabilitate or whatever. You're helping them have proper, living standards and all of that. But eventually what ends up happening is it slowly turns into something of a ghetto. And how the youth, the idea of the youth kind of getting out of this place becomes a thing unto itself, but it presents to you the personal angle of something you've only seen on a political level. So those films always get you, and then things like तुमको तो यार ये देखनी चाहिए, ये ला एन, फिर द बैटल ऑफ अल्जीयर्स देखी है तुमने? तुमको तो यार बहुत मजा आएगा, मैं तो तुमको पूरी लिस्ट दे दूंगा। मैं बोल रहा हूँ,
मेरा कंजम्पशन इतना कम है
पॉलिटिकल फिल्म्स। आई थिंक मेरे को तो
पिछले 2 साल में मैंने जितना सिनेमा देखा है वो 10 गुना है जितना मैंने उसके पहले देखा था।
तो मैं तुमको एक लिस्ट दूंगा ऑफ स्पेशली दीज काइंड ऑफ फिल्म्स व्हिच आई थिंक यू विल रियली सॉर्ट ऑफ एंजॉय।
आई मीन जब मुझे बात करनी होती है, मुझे लगता है आर्टिकल 15 से बेहतर फिल्म कोई है नहीं।
आर्टिकल 15
और अनुभव सिन्हा, आई एम लाइक
कमाल,
वो मेरे
उनकी पकड़ जो है वो भी वही करते हैं ना, वो उनकी एकदम गहरी समझ है उस दुनिया की।
समथिंग लाइक आर्टिकल 15 एंड यू आर आल्सो टॉकिंग अबाउट थप्पड़, छोटी सी चीज है, एक झापड़ कितना सब कुछ बदल सकता है।
इनक्रेडिबल।
यू हैव आल्सो मेड रावण, मतलब आपने 20 साल पहले एआई पे लिख दिया।
या सुपर्ब यार।
half of people love it, half of the people don't love it. That's a different thing, but then you make IC-814,
exactly.
the most complex hijack story of India. The way you have pulled it out, again logo ke problems honge, you have not done justice to this,
but it's masterful in its storytelling, no?
I mean अनुभव सिन्हा के बारे में बात होनी चाहिए. Then you made something like Mulk.
Yeah.
You won Filmfare. He won Filmfare for Mulk and Article 15 both. I think he got the best story for Mulk and
I see.
best film for Article 15.
I see.
And Article 15 was the reason why it was like Ayushmann Khurrana and everything. Then the Rocket Boys came, and then I was like, Pranav, who is making them act like that? It is the director. Now focus on them. For a very long time, I didn't know much about directors. And once I got to know about them, then I started consuming a lot of films which were really good.
Of the director.
Yeah, and then Anurag Kashyap comes into the picture, Vikramadit Motwani. And then again, when it comes to music, it's I'm like, मैं भक्ति में हूँ अमित त्रिवेदी के, something like this.
स्नेहा कनवलकर भी.
हाँ.
कमाल.
I mean, उनकी एक स्टोरी बता रहे थे अनुराग कश्यप, that वो जाती थी किसी गांव में तो कॉल करके बोलती थी, अनुराग अगर मैं नहीं आऊँ तो समझ जाना मैं खत्म हो चुकी हूँ, मेरे घर पे कॉल कर देना.
I've seen that whole video. क्या है ना बॉस?
Yeah,
It's about
Gangs
the
of
making of the
Wasipur.
music
Gangs of
of our
Wasipur.
gangs, ना?
Yeah. Gangs of Wasipur.
But वही है ना, देखो वो वायर वाला एग्जांपल है. तुमने क्या
घुस
किया?
जाओ
तुम एकदम डूब गए तुम दुनिया में, और फिर तुमने वहां से कोई हीरा निकाला. वो ही तो है बॉस. एंड आजकल की दुनिया में वही तो है, बिकॉज we've seen so much. We see so many films. There are so many genres that we are exposed to that we've kind of squeezed out what we can out of those genres as makers and as viewers. But what we don't have is an in-depth understanding of this world or that world, or you know, like whether it's यार ई बालेऊ क्या पिक्चर है बॉस.
Again French?
नहीं दिल्ली में यार, दिल्ली में सेट है.
क्या नाम है?
ईब अलेऊ.
Okay.
Shardul Bhardwaj is the actor. Fantastic performance. He's also a very good actor. I think the filmmaker's name is Pratik Vats. I might be mistaken.
Okay.
If I'm mistaken, you can
I'll
cut out
correct
the
that.
name. Yeah. But superb film. तो वहाँ पे दिल्ली में there are lots of is it baboons or is it monkeys? Anyway, primates of some kind. हाँ, और
काले फेस वाले.
हाँ, तो उनको लंगूर है ना,
लंगूर. हाँ, लंगूर और बिग
टेल. तो उनको भगाने के लिए there is this person who does that, and that is he's the protagonist of your story.
वो पकड़ के घुमाते हैं वो उनको.
क्या है बॉस, मतलब क्या पिक्चर बनाई, क्यों, और वो क्या है, दुनिया है. वो उन्होंने आपको दुनिया दी है जिसमें आप डूब गए. ऑल दैट ब्रीड्स, वो जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री भी है शौनक सेन की, जो काफी उसको अटेंशन मिला था couple of years ago.
Just one last thing. I wanted to ask this, मेरे दिमाग में पहले मिनट से था. Which film of your dad is your favorite film?
I would say Oye Lucky.
Oye Lucky, yeah.
Oye Lucky. It's incredible. वो so many reasons. It's a fun film. It's again going back to the same thing. It is a world that is told with specificity, detail and with joy. आपको हर किरदार की खुशबू आती है, आपको समझ में आता है. वो दुनिया के तौर तरीके, नियम आपको समझ में आते हैं. The writing is sparkling, the performances are fantastic. As far as my father is concerned, to play a triple role of 3 people, it's not like you're playing 3 people from different parts of the country. They're from a similar region of the country, and still they're so diverse.
Yeah.
And the versatility on display just by that one actor is incredible. So, and I think just out and out, it's a very good film. So I would say for my father's films, Oye Lucky is.
Oye Lucky, yeah.
वो अलग है, कुछ मजा ही अलग है उसका. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. This was a pleasure.
Yes. By the way, this is the second longest interview here.
After Sahil.
After Sahil. This was 3 hours.
मेरा actually कोई 2 बजे होने वाला था, but cancel हो गया, तो मैं बोला चलो यार आगे बढ़ते हैं आराम से.